Just to begin, talk to me a little bit about your role right now. You are superintendent of the Virginia Military Institute. What does your role entail?
Well, the superintendent is the equivalent of the president of the college or the chief executive, so I'm responsible for how we conduct as a public college everything related to running a college institution. But because of the unique nature of VMI as a military college, there's a co-curricular piece that has to do with operating and learning and growing in a military environment, a structured environment, if you will, that requires our students to do things outside of the classroom, like daily military drill and ceremony, and other things that require them to do either physical activity, physical fitness related activity, or athletic activities.
And you're mentioning there is a difference between a military institute and a normal university. Can you briefly touch on the difference between a normal state university and a military institute?
Sure. I mean, I think the thing that differentiates us is we are one of the 6 senior military colleges in the United States, and we are unique among those senior military colleges in that our student body is in a military-like environment 24/7. So we have all cadets are wearing uniforms. Cadets are required to attend and make formations of various different types. They will have certain military activities that they participate in, like a parade, like guard mount. Sometimes as a punitary measure, they will do things like march penalty tours. So that's what makes it unique. We have an ROTC component, just like a lot of colleges do, public colleges do. The unique thing is, again, number one, we are a fairly large commissioning source to the uniformed services of the military, and we blend as a part of our co-curricular, the 24/7 environment of a military-like environment with our ROTC component that allows for added training for our students.
And you actually have an added element, an added love for the school, I'm sure, because you graduated here back in 1985, is that right?
Correct.
In 1985, you graduated here. Let's talk a little bit about your background. If you can briefly walk me through, coming to the school,
sure,
graduating, and what happened after that.
Sure. So I was recruited to come here to play Division I basketball. I grew up in Washington, D.C. and Maryland, and as a recruited athlete, I got the opportunity to play at the Division I level. I also came here because I wanted to get a college education, a college degree. I was the first in my family to go to college. Back then, we had what was called mandatory commissioning, which simply meant that if you were offered an opportunity to commission, you would accept it. I accepted a commission in the United States Army and went off from here to go and serve, intended to only go serve for a short period of time to fulfill my commitment, which was, I think, 4 years. And I did that, but I found that so much about the military was relatable to me from the standpoint of having been a Division I athlete. And so I continued to take on the various different challenges of being in the military and ended up serving for 34 years and retiring as a Major General.
And when did you come back to VMI?
So I came back to VMI in November of 2020, and it was at the height of COVID, and it was also at the height of when VMI was going through a lot of scrutiny with respect to charges of systemic and institutional racism and sexism here at the school.
And I have looked into that a little bit. I believe Washington Post, they came out with a report, is that correct, saying back in 2021-ish, right?
Sure.
That there was some institutional issues with racism and sexism. That's what their report had said. And then you were the interim superintendent at that time, and then you were put into place as the acting superintendent in 2021. Is that
Sure.
correct?
Yeah, so I was brought in During that time, at the request of the VMI Board of Visitors, they had reached out to me to come in and just fulfill the role as the interim superintendent to help VMI, help guide and lead VMI through COVID and an upcoming equity audit that was being directed by the then Governor Ralph Northam as a part of the complaints and those accusations. So that's how I got here. Over that period of 6 months, we managed through a lot of the challenges of COVID, where probably about 80% of our student body was affected by COVID, so much so that for a time we had to send them home. But I was determined, along with my staff, to make sure that the experience that they were going through was going to resemble as closely as we could make it the typical experience of what goes on here at VMI. And so we managed ourselves through that. We brought the cadets back. We were able to get to a point of graduation where we did an in-person graduation ceremony for our graduating class. And then along with that, we had to get through an equity audit that was being performed by a outside contracted law firm that turned over a report to the General Assembly and to the Northam administration.
Okay, and so let me make sure I understand this right. You're saying, so there was the report by the Washington Post, and then there was another report done that was, and basically an audit of the university.
Yeah.
And they looked through, is that where they looked through sexism, racism, all those type of issues? Is that correct?
So the official report was done by this third-party law firm.
Okay.
The stories, of which there were a number, were articles that were written in the Washington Post and other publications. Time Magazine had a series of articles. Some of the local press here in and around or down the valley had written some articles as well. Richmond Times had written some articles.
So when you came in, you know, you're dealing with COVID on top of some of these reports that are coming out from news stations, coming out from the Washington Post. And then you also have that added element of that audit done as well.
Yeah.
You know, how did you feel coming into VMI? You know, at this time it's facing scrutiny.
Sure.
How was handling so much on your plate? I mean, you did handle it on your plate. How was coming into such a time like that?
Yeah, well, thankfully, I had served over the course of my career, and I had been in large organizations or led large organizations. And so I was pretty well equipped to come into another good-sized organization and lead it through just kind of the things that have to deal with the finances, that have to deal with the personnel issues. The difference for me, or the new part for me, were the things dealing with being in an academic environment, because I don't have the background of having worked in higher education. So that was a challenge for me to get up to speed on that. I think that, you know, as a function of leadership, the first thing you have to do is you have to assess the organization that you're coming into. You have to understand what is working well, and then what are the areas that aren't working as well, that need to or will require some type of fixing or change. When I got here, the first thing I had the opportunity to do and wanted to do was address the Corps of Cadets. You know, at the time it was about 1,700 young men and women, and to express them and to communicate to them my expectations in my role of myself, my expectations of my staff, and most importantly, my expectations of them as part of a military regiment in a military-like environment here at this school. So you kind of set the foundation of what you're going to do and what you're going to expect, what standards are important to you and them as well, and then you begin to set on the task of just trying to operate on a day-to-day basis to make sure that the Institute is operating and functioning at a very high level.
You know, you mentioned some of the expectations you had. What were some of those expectations? I'm sure there were quite a few, but what are some of the ones that might resonate with people more?
Sure.
What are some of those expectations?
Sure. Well, as a public college, I certainly had the expectation that our academic program had to be solid. It was good that as I did my assessment, I was able to find that our academic program was running extremely well. So that's one of those things you say, things are running good, let's just continue to make sure we're doing that. The other thing that I had to do and wanted to do was, because of some of these accusations, I wanted to look at the climate and the culture, the policies and the procedures of what goes on here. And so I often say that leaders set the tone for the culture of an organization. The culture of an organization can be largely shaped by a leader. And so I wanted to make sure that from an understanding of what the culture may have been before I got here and what the culture was going to be going forward, I wanted people to understand that that culture was going to be built around our mission, our vision, and our values, and that if things existed within the culture that were centered around sexism or racism, it wasn't going to be tolerated, right? We were going to operate ourselves in a better way, operate ourselves in a way that I was more accustomed with, having been here as a student at the college and having served for 34 years in the United States military.
Do you feel like you were able to accomplish that?
Yeah, I do. I feel like a lot of progress was made from those earlier days in terms of what was being done. I think it proves itself out when you look at some of the measurable accomplishments, when you think about the graduation rate of our students, the academic performance of our students, how we're doing in terms of the number of commissioning officers that we are continuing to produce, how we're doing from an athletic standpoint as a Division I college, some of the successes that we've been able to achieve with respect to the relationship between VMI and the legislature, VMI and the governor's administration. I think all of those things have improved greatly, and so we are certainly on a good path. It's not lost on me that progress can sometimes be fragile. However, I think we've got a lot of good things in place centered around a strategic plan that we've developed that was approved by our boards of visitors that really sets the foundation and the direction for the Institute for the next 10 years.
It is good to hear, and you know the reason why we are here today is because in June, just I guess in January, right?
Mm-hmm.
We recently found out that that they would not be extending your contract. Yep. That would be the Board of Visitors.
Sure.
Can you talk to me a little bit about that? How are you feeling about them not extending your contract farther?
Sure. So, in all honesty, I'm disappointed. I think there are so many measurable positive outcomes that have occurred here over the last 4 years that warranted a contract renewal. It's also not lost on me that after 4.5 years, if I go through all the serving superintendents that have served here, this might be one of a very short tenure relative to them. The direction of the Institute, I think, was certainly by all accounts by the folks who looked at the measures of performance and the measures of success was moving in the right direction. I think that VMI will continue to do that, and it's going to be important for the next leader to chart their own path for the Institute based on their vision, but it's certainly one that needs to be emphasized, that the things that you need to pay attention to are going to be centered around the culture, the climate, the academic experience, ensuring that as a military college we continue to operate with that military-like environment, but one that is going to ensure that its preparation is consistent with the expectations of standards and discipline that we would expect from our graduates as military officers, as people that go into the civilian sector, private sector, who start their own businesses, people who go and want to serve. They need to understand what service looks like and need to do it, and know that as they're going into organizations, they are people of character who are going to serve.
Okay, so that was kind of a little bit of advice for the next superintendent as well with that. You're saying that the important thing as a superintendent coming in is to maintain that culture, the list that you basically just gave. Is that correct?
Yeah, a positive culture.
Positive
culture that is intended to help shape these young people so that the character that they leave here with is one where they're going to be value added and they're going to be able to take on the challenges that society presents.
Yeah, and I actually think I need to correct myself. It wasn't January, it was February when we found out that they were not extending it, right?
Correct.
And when will your contract end?
So my contract will end on 30 June.
On the 30th of June.
Year.
Okay, and you talked a little bit about how you're feeling about that. Can I ask you, why do you think they're not extending your contract?
You'd have to ask the board. I know that in the discussions that I've had with board members, and I routinely talk to the president the most, but in discussions that I've had with board members, I've been able to articulate to them the accomplishments, the directions, the solid nature in which this institute is operating today when compared to the challenges that it had when I came in. And so from my standpoint, I see many successes that have occurred, which I felt and I still feel warranted a contract renewal. I don't see this as being somewhat normal, but be that as it may, there are transitions that typically occur, but I don't think this one by any stretch was made based on lack of performance.
So then what do you think it was based on? I know that you can't answer for them, but I think you did mention beforehand, I think you released a statement, is that right?
Sure.
That said something about, was this racially based at all?
Well, in my view, again, it's not lost on me that I will leave here having been the shortest tenured superintendent of the 15. There's a clear distinction of that. There's also a clear distinction of who and how I came to be in this position and the successes that have been achieved. In my document, in the statement that I released, I certainly talked about the politicization of higher education these days. I know for a fact that as an institute, we've been very much in alignment with the things that have been prioritized by the state with respect to the health, welfare, and safety of students, the strength of our academic program, being a strong proponent for freedom of speech and freedom of inquiry and freedom of thought. All of those things we've been working towards, creating more pathways to transition from college life to work life. All of those things we've championed. Those are the things that I've heard repeatedly were important from a state perspective for being a public institution. So those are the things we've done, and we've done them all very well. And so I stand on my record.
You stand on your record of saying that you have done well as a superintendent. You've helped the school in many ways, and I guess you're not continuing as a superintendent. So I guess is your question why not? Or do you know why not?
Oh well, I don't know why not because it hasn't been communicated to me. I just know what I've done and what I've put forward before the board of visitors in our conversations of accomplishments. And there's never been any feedback that was communicated to say that, I was not meeting those accomplishments. I think it's evidenced by repeated bonuses and the communications that I was receiving. Certainly boards can make decisions, but we've also got a very young and inexperienced board, and that's just kind of where we were and where we found ourselves back in February.
Would you like to know why?
Oh, sure. I'd love to get, anyone would love to get an honest, candid answer with something that was measurable and objective in terms of the feedback. I'm just like anyone else. That would be valuable to me.
And did you have any idea that they were not going to renew your contract?
I knew, I can't say anything was known for certain. It wasn't lost on me in the observation of kind of the political nature of how things were happening with our board appointments, that there was a shift occurring. But I counted on, as any president of a college should be able to count on, I counted on a board that would be objective, a board that would be supportive of the direction, and if those things were not happening, I expected candid conversation, direct feedback, so that if course corrections needed to be made, that those things could be made.
But you did not receive that?
No.
And this Board of Visitors, that was the one that didn't renew your contract, right?
Mm-hmm.
The Board of Visitors. It's appointed by the governor, right? It's an advisory board appointed by the governor. Am I correct on that?
Each appointment is made by the governor.
Okay, so that Board of Visitors, how does this Board of Visitors compare to the Board of Visitors that hired you back in 2021?
Sure, great question. So when I came in, the Board of Visitors that was in place certainly was a very strong, seasoned group of executive level professionals, right? We had two retired 3-star generals that sat on our board, and obviously being a military college, that's valuable to us. So we had two that one had run a college, a college in the Department of Defense, and the other had been very high up in the Department of the Army. We had a former political appointee who was on our board as former Undersecretary of the Army. We had a number of corporate CEOs, one who had run a Fortune 500 company. So we had a lot of experience and a lot of seasoned experience. They looked at the challenges that we were facing, and they were valuable to me in terms of advice. They were certainly valuable to me in terms of advocacy and support. That's what was here when I got here, and that's what was helpful to VMI being successful to get us through COVID and to get us through equity audit. They asked tough questions. They communicated very effectively what they thought and what they saw was happening here, and so it was very valuable. Mm-hmm. And so that's the board as it was when I was here, and over time that has changed.
When was the new board put into place?
It's been over the series of the last 3 years.
Okay, so it slowly kind of switches out.
With each appointment.
With each appointment. And the new board, can you describe this board to me?
Less experienced, less objective.
Okay, less experienced and less objective. And how does that play into them not renewing your contract?
Oh, I think it's huge. I think again, it's significant. It's significant, and I would say it's significant not so much because of me. I would say it's significant for the next person who comes in as a superintendent. You're going to have a person that is going to be selected to be the next superintendent of VMI right, who's going to bring with them a lot of experience in some sector, right? You're going to need to get an executive level person, and that person is going to have to guide a pretty large organization in terms of its resources, in terms of the recruitment and retention of students, its academic program, its capital efforts, the infrastructure of this entire institute, the relationships that it has with the House of Delegates and the administration. You're going to have the right type of senior leader who's going to be able to do that. And certainly that leader is going to have to make some decisions, tough decisions at times, and they're going to have to know that they have the backing and the support of a board of visitors. And some of those decisions are not going to be liked by everyone, right? But they will have to be done in the best interests of the Institute to help fulfill its mission and its vision, and to do the very best to provide the best educational environment for these young cadets.
Yeah, it's a lot on a superintendent's plate as well.
Yep.
With this, right, I want to go back to my question before. Critics of have said that, right, back in 2021, after all of this, they say that you were appointed for the reason of the racial discrimination and sexism.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I mean, do you think that's the case? Why do you think you were appointed?
Well, all I can tell you is what was conveyed to me, okay? And what was conveyed to me was that VMI was in a pretty tough situation, a dark situation, and they needed a leader. And they needed a leader to guide them through the challenges that they were facing. People want to talk about DEI and all of those things. All I know is what was told to me, and I was asked to come here to lead my alma mater through those challenging times.
Yeah, and as you said earlier, you feel like you did that.
100%.
And, you know, now moving forward to 2025,
Mm-hmm.
I want to make sure I understand this. Do you think that them deciding to not renew your contract, do you think them deciding not to renew your contract was race-based?
Hard to say. I know that I'm an African American man. I know that my tenure will be the shortest tenure of any superintendent among the 15. I'm the 15th, and I'll leave it at that.
Yeah. You know, some people are saying because of the political climate right now, with a lot of DEI programs getting cut,
Sure.
that this is kind of where it's moving.
Mm-hmm.
You know, do you think that, I mean, I guess my question is do you think that you're a part of that?
I believe that VMI's challenges, right, are not 100% in alignment with conversations about DEI. Okay, I think VMI's challenges and what was occurring here when I arrived, right, racism and sexism had nothing to do with DEI. Okay, it had to do with a climate and a culture that had allowed certain blind spots to exist. And again, it was about leadership, and it was about the tone that you set as a leader to make sure folks understand. I believe that there were adjustments that could have been made and needed to be made when you talk about the demographics of the student body here, where young men and women felt accepted, regardless of their background, regardless of their race, regardless of their financial condition, financial status, that this was a place that they saw as a great opportunity for them to get a great education. Those were the things that I think this institution was in need of, and those are the things that I believe that I was called to usher in change.
So they are not extending your contract, and now moving forward, what are the next steps for you?
I am now at a point where I've retired from the United States military after 34 years, and I will be moving on from VMI after 4.5 years. I'm very thankful for the opportunity that I've had to contribute to society in that way. I'm extremely gratified and humbled by the opportunity that I had to work with a great faculty and staff here and watch so many impressive young men and women go through VMI over the last 4 years. This particular class of 25, will be the first class that was recruited under my tenure as superintendent. So we came here together, we'll leave together, and it's a special class to me for that reason, and it's a special class because I'm going to watch with a lot of anticipation that because of the leadership that was instilled in them, they're going to go out and do great things.
How are you feeling about that specifically? You just mentioned that this is the class. It's kind of, it's your class that you've carried through.
Yeah.
I mean, how are you feeling on ending on that note?
Oh, I feel very positive. I feel positive not only about that class of 25 that will graduate, but the succession of classes. I think that these young people understand better the value of this education. I think they are set to continue to grow and learn what character building is all about, how they need to build their character to be the right type of young person in the future.
Awesome. And what will you miss the most as a superintendent and in your current capacity?
I think that the thing that always struck me about the awesome responsibility of this job was, number one, the opportunity in late August when you have a bunch of young 17, 18-year-olds. They and their parents are here for matriculation, and there's a lot of uncertainty. Parents are getting ready to hand over their young person to this institute, and we have the role and responsibility to look after them and to steer them and to help them grow and mature. And then 4 years later, what I miss is sitting over there and signing diplomas and shaking the hands of those young men and women who have matured incredibly, shaking their hand and handing them a diploma as a graduate from VMI. Those are the things that I'll miss.
Now, looking back over the past few years that you've been here, 4 to 5, because you were the interim superintendent, so we'll say 5 years total. What are you most proud of?
I'm proud of a lot. I'm proud of the quality of the young men and women. I'm proud to know that I probably have been the strongest advocate here at VMI to talk about, to champion and support the value and the worth of young women here. As I leave, I will have had the opportunity to select the first woman regimental commander. I will have had the opportunity to have selected about 5 women who served as battalion commanders, so very senior ranking cadets, and every one of them have been able to step into their roles based on their qualifications, the fact that they were the ones that were determined to be deserving of those positions. So I'll certainly be happy about that. I will be very satisfied with the accomplishments of the capital funding and the relationships that I was able to build with the legislature, such that I will leave out of here where VMI is poised to undergo about $300 million plus worth of capital projects over the next 4 to 5 years. I'll be very happy to know that our financial condition is in good shape. I'll be happy to know that the demographics of VMI have created opportunities for every race, every gender of student, whether they're poor or rich, to come here and get a great education. So those are the things.
That's great. Do you have any concerns about the future of VMI? Do you have any concerns about the precedent that this recent decision has made? What concerns do you have, and does the recent decision create any bad precedents?
Yeah, I don't know. I would say that what concerns me, or what I would hope that the Institute, the Board of Visitors, the next superintendent pay attention to is the forward progress. Prioritize the things that are centered around the needs of the well-being of cadets. Don't prioritize the Institute around things that are centered on the wrong types of traditions. Understand the great opportunity that is before us when it comes to going out and recruiting and retaining a broad array of students, no matter where they come from. If we are convinced that we produce a great product, we need to be committed to producing more.